Okay, people. So today I have the pleasure of speaking to Rita Basalu. Is that correct?
Basulto.
Basulto.
Basulto. Rita Basulto, who is the director of Humo Smoke, a short film about the Holocaust. And Marina Mendez is joining us to help out with any translation issues. So, ladies, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Gracias a ti por invitarnos a este espacio.
Thank you for having us.
No worries at all. So, this is such an interesting story, right? Because I think we've seen a lot of stories about the Holocaust, but I don't know if I've seen one from such a young child's point of view, which really, I think it changes the impact of it, right? So how did this come about?
Um, le, mm, la primera vez que me acerqué a este tema fue a partir de un libro ilustrado que se llama Humo y es de una editorial española.
So the first time she came across the story was in a children's book, actually. She's going to pick it up from a Spanish publishing house. So, yeah, so it is based on a children's book, actually, and that's why it's told from the perspective of a small kid.
Yeah. And when you read the story, right, did it automatically jump out how exactly you would translate it, or was it just that this is such a powerful story, I want to be able to tell it and bring it to a larger audience?
No me queda tan claro la parte final.
Si solo querías traerlo para que más gente viera el libro y supiera la historia.
En realidad estuvimos trabajando con esta editorial que se llama Oco, que está en Pontevedra. Estuvimos trabajando 4 cortometrajes anteriores de diferentes temáticas y era cuestión de tiempo hablar de Humo, pero bueno, si quieres te doy espacio, Mariana.
Yeah, so they have been working, Rita and her production partner had been working with this Spanish publishing house on a couple different stories before then. So it was just a matter of time before they got to Humo.
La razón por que me interesó Humo, porque teníamos muchos libros, es que al leerlo quedé conmovida de una forma tal que empecé a llorar y creí que era una historia valiosa de retomar por medio del stop motion.
Yeah, so there were a lot of other books to choose from, but when she came across the story of Humo, she was just left in tears after reading it and thought that it was a very important story to tell through the medium of stop motion.
Right. Yeah, stop motion is always there's a certain charm to it, right? So yeah, I thought it was an interesting approach. Now, how long did it take to get all the puppets crafted and you know the design and all of that kind of thing?
Fueron más de 7 años.
About 7 years.
Whoa.
Porque los proyectos, tenía este proyecto personal, pero trabajaba con otros compromisos de proyectos que ya había apalabrado y además pues tuve la oportunidad de colaborar en Pinocho, entonces había ciertas oportunidades que no se iban a volver a presentar y no quise desperdiciarlas.
So it was a span of 7 years, but she was working on other projects. This was her passion project, but there were other compromises that she had, that she had already packed it, that she didn't want to back out from. One of them being Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So she worked on the Mexican unit for that. So that took a lot of time. So it was 7 years on and off.
Man, like when you hear about projects like this that take so long, right? You just think the passion and determination that is there to tell that story, it's always very impressive. But working on Pinocchio, like how much did that help and influence the way you told this story?
Que cuánto me influenció Pinocho, en realidad, curiosamente no me influyó, puesto que en Pinocho yo tenía una cantidad, yo era lighting camera person y tenía toda la tecnología y todo el color que se podía incluir en la película y Humo es totalmente contraria. Y si quieres, hago una pausa. Seguir con
Yeah, so surprisingly not much, because in Pinocchio she had all the sort of technology and all the colors. She was the head of sort of lighting and camera for the second unit. And Uma's completely the opposite of that.
Right.
Tengo 0 elementos, es un nada, no es barroco, no es una composición barroca, es una mínimo de elementos y es casi monocromático todo lo que se habla visualmente en Humo.
So Humo is visually very, very different than Pinocchio, just in the style. It's very monochromatic. And it's super different than what was happening in Pinocchio.
Muchos de los elementos, quería hablar de la soledad, entonces no podía meter muchos elementos. ¿Cómo se siente alguien solo estando con tantas personas? Y uno de los herramientas que usé fue el color, pero además la síntesis de objetos que son prácticamente es minimal todo el cortometraje.
Yeah, so what she was trying to convey throughout Humo was, how do you make someone feel so lonely when they're surrounded by so many people? So she chose this sort of monochromatic and colors and played with that color to make this happen.
Okay. Now, was that the instant, like realization that that was the approach, or did that come later on in the process?
Me perdí.
¿Te llegó instantemente en cuanto lo leíste? ¿Sabías que así eso es lo que querías hacer? ¿Monocromático, el estilo y todo eso? ¿O cuando empezaste el proceso te diste cuenta que esa era la manera de contar la historia?
No, creo que no fue una solución inmediata, aunque el libro te da cierta pauta para tomarlo así, sino que también vas evolucionando con el proyecto y me daba cuenta que los personajes principales tenían que ser volumétricos y tenían que estar, es como alguien que conoces como tridimensionalmente. Como en un sueño, percibo a todos los extras como entes que están alrededor, que te duelen, pero no conoces.
So it wasn't immediate, but the book, someone sets the tone for that style. But it was also evolving as the project went on, and it suddenly became clear that the main characters and the main puppets had to have this 3D element to them, like people that you sort of know fully, and that all the extras and everyone else were sort of characters in a dream where they're just there in a more like 2D world. And that's why there's a difference between those two sort of puppets.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I thought it, like, visually, it was really impactful, right? And I don't know, there's when you look at the puppets of the little kids, there is a kind of a weariness to them, right? Like an agedness, which I think, like, they look like kids, right? But there is this aged kind of sense to them, which you just, and I just think that was really great on a visual level, because when you just think about everything that's going on, like a kid being in that situation, not fully understanding the magnitude of things, like, oh, that house has a chimney on it, right? Not knowing what that house is, but all of these different things happening, people disappearing. So you think that's gonna impact you, right? That's going to age you. So I thought that the visual look of the puppets worked so well of getting like this whole situation across, of what these little kids and what these people are going through. Like, was that the fault in doing that, or did that just kind of by happen chance happen?
A ver si entiendo la pregunta. Es que los niños tienen una apariencia, o sea, aunque son niños, no son, tienen una cosa como de adultos, ¿no? Como
Sí, se ven cansados.
percepción, bueno, es el ambiente que los envuelve, que es terrible, las circunstancias a las que están expuestos, pero más que nada es como hay una cosa que creo que se parece a otros países. En México es una cuestión de, bueno, mi padre así me lo hacía. Uno viene a sufrir a este mundo y no puedes cambiarlo y solo puedes aceptarlo. Y te lo dicen desde muy temprana edad. Y creo que también la ideología que persistía en era la resiliencia, pero también un poco, no precisamente, pues sí, no la resignación, sino la resiliencia a seguir soportando, y no conocen el mundo de otra manera más que esta terrible. Son niños, no saben que podría ser diferente.
Yeah, so obviously it was on purpose, right? But it came from the circumstances they're exposed to. And there's a saying in a lot of Latin American countries, and at least something that Rita's daddy used to say, where like one is here um to suffer, and you can't change this, you just have to accept it. So for the kids, it is sort of that resilience of they have to keep going, but they also don't know anything else. This is their reality and this is all they know. So that is just part of it, and it just reflects on, on the puppets, on their faces.
Whew. Yeah, I just really thought it just works so well. Like, just all those little touches that we see, like when it opens up and there's the pictures on the wall, and and then we take that beach picture and then we kind of bring that into the present day, and then we are with the kid. I just those little touches, and just the kind of things like, oh, that's not the train that takes us to the beach. It's just like, oh man. Whew. It's yeah, I mean, I can definitely see why you wanted to bring this story to life in this way. But with reading the book, was there a lot that you had to change, or were you able to keep pretty faithful to how the story was told in that medium?
Un poco sí cambié la historia, ¿no? La historia es ese final, el niño que toma la mano de su amigo y dice, Darío es mi único amigo y, y pues es el que le va a acompañar. Yo le di un giro como de esperanza porque él cree que hay la posibilidad de regresar y volver a ver a mamá, pero en el dado caso, él espera que su mamá no sufra mucho si él no regresa, ¿no? Sí le di un pequeño giro porque en el libro termina, solo entran a la casa de la chimenea y se pierden
So
la identidad.
the ending is the same, but with a twist to it. So in the book, they walk into the house with the chimney, and it's over. But she had the whole, because he has hope that he might come back, but if he doesn't, he also hopes that his mom doesn't suffer, you know.
Yeah, like it's very haunting, the end, when they're walking in and the mum like returns to their house, and oh man, it is, yeah, it really sticks with you, those moments. It's what, with doing this, what were you hoping to convey, to people with this story?
A ver, ayúdame con Fate.
¿Qué es lo que le estás tratando de decir a la gente?
No la guerra, un poco, ¿no? No olvidar los errores que hemos tenido como humanidad
To not forget,
y,
the mistakes we've done as a society,
y la responsabilidad que tenemos con todos estos niños, ¿no? Que se ven involucrados en la guerra.
and the responsibility that we have for all those children who somehow end up, involved in wars that
Y
they shouldn't be.
no, nada más los niños,
Not
todos
just kids, but
todos los
everyone else
los
who's
abuelos.
involved in wars that they shouldn't be.
Yeah, yeah, I think that really does, come across, and especially with the little kid narrating. Like, was that always, the fault, you want a little kid narrating, or did you ever think of having it like the mother telling the story? Like, what what was that process like?
A ver, el proceso para hacer un corto de este tipo.
Más bien, sí, siempre que viste al niño siendo el protagonista, o pensaste en algún momento contarlo desde el punto de vista de su mamá.
No, todo el tiempo fue a partir del niño.
So she always wanted to tell it from the little kid's perspective.
Siempre fue el niño y pensé en todos los niños. Cuando hice esta historia, tenía en mi vientre a mi hijo y bueno, las hormonas al ver estas imágenes me llevaban a la depresión, entonces dejé todo lo que fue la investigación un tiempo pospuesta y cada vez que yo veía una carita pensaba que qué duro es ver en todas esas caras a tu propio hijo y que alguien venga y tome su vida por las razones ideológicas, no importa cuáles tenga, que tiene el derecho de arrancarte lo más valioso que tienes. Y creo que ese es el mensaje que quise también dar en Humo, porque no nomás es el punto de vista.
Yeah.
Sí.
So she always thought of telling it from the point of view of the kid, but also it's important to know that when she first started this process, she was pregnant with her son. So when she was doing a lot of research, she had to stop a couple times because just looking at all the images became really, really tough, right?
Mm.
But it was also seeing all these little faces of young kids and thinking like, how could someone, just because of their ideologies, think that they can rip the most important thing you have from you and just put them in horrible situations. So the idea was always to tell it from the point of view of the child.
Right, right. Now, was because of you were expecting your son, like, did that make it even more important to tell a story like this? Did it change the way you looked at filmmaking and storytelling because of that?
Ayúdame, Mariana.
Que si básicamente tener un hijo te cambió la manera en la que contaste esa historia y influenció quién eras tú como cineasta.
Definitivamente, cuando tomé la historia, creo que era más indolente, o sea, sí me movió, pero de una perspectiva menos profunda.
So when she first looked at the story, obviously she was moved by it, but it wasn't as profound as when she actually had a kid.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine, and having stories that can work for, a myriad of different age groups, how important is that for you? And touching on subjects like this, that they're not necessarily the easiest of topics, but they're so important, right? How important is that for you as a storyteller to create things like this, which can be ingested by so many different people?
¿Qué tan importante es para ti contar una historia así, que es súper importante, que es para mucha gente de diferentes edades?
Está dirigido, porque el libro es un libro infantil ilustrado, desde su concepción está dirigido a un público familiar, o sea, para todas las edades. Y aunque es una historia triste y mi hijo llora cada vez que la ve, y yo también, creo que es importante, pues, cómo valoras lo que tienes y si no sabes que existe la tristeza. La tristeza y la felicidad van conjuntas, no puede haber puras historias felices y el hecho de que hayan hecho este libro para concientizar creo que a todos en general, o sea, concientizar de que no hay ningún motivo, ninguna razón suficiente para ir a la guerra.
Yeah, so obviously this is based on an illustrated book, right? So the audience for her from the beginning were like families. This is for everyone. And obviously it's a very sad story, and her son and herself cry every time, they rewatch it. But it's important for everyone to hear the message, because how can you value what you have when you know sort of what else is out there and what the worst case scenario could be? And sadness and happiness go hand in hand. So this story was told from that perspective to reach a wider audience, to sort of like raise awareness and make everyone sort of consciously aware of what can happen if you go to war.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those messages that you think is so important. And you think when people watch it and the response, it always seems to impact. But then we still make these mistakes over and over again, which is just crazy. But I think the more these stories are told, hopefully it does help change that next generation to making better decisions,
Sí.
Yeah.
Uno de los motivos también, cuando veo a mi hijo que quiere jugar, pues, a la guerra y que digo, es que no estás pensando.
So another
Lo
thing
que
that she thought about was, sometimes her son is like, "Oh, let's play war." And she tells him like, "Yeah, but you're not really thinking about what that actually means."
Yes. Right. It is that interesting thing, right? I know when I was growing up, you could you know, they always sold like bows and arrows, guns, you know, cowboy outfits, like little toy
Las
machine
bombas.
guns.
Yeah, there's like fake bombs and things like that.
Yeah. And as a kid, right, you'd be like, oh yeah, cowboys and Indians. Oh, you know, I'm a soldier. But it's when you grow up and you see those things, right? And you understand like these genocides, these horrific situations. It's just like, wait, and I can't believe that I played that, or I just looked at it that it wasn't anything, right? I just thought it was a throwaway thing. I didn't understand the impact it had on a whole heap of people. So it's kind of weird that those things are put out there like they're disposable when they're not. And the story behind them is always horrific to at least one group of people, one community, if not a whole heap of more, you know. So it's I think these are things that we don't think about. So it's just, yeah, it's really important to see these stories and see them from so many different perspectives, you know. So yeah, I thought this was a tremendous a tremendous piece of work. So congratulating Rita and your
Yes.
team, because you really did a fantastic job.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Like, what was the most difficult aspect of like this production?
¿Cuál es
El aspecto más difícil de la producción.
Creo que fue grabar las voces en la producción.
Recording the voiceovers.
Hubo como 2 momentos. Uno fue, que estábamos haciendo la producción en tiempo de COVID y, bueno, Dante y yo somos asmáticos y teníamos un pavor enorme a contagiarnos. Ya habían fallecido un par de personas, entonces era muy extraño estar trabajando un proyecto de un campo de concentración en un estado de aislamiento y aún aunque era un tema triste, también era un tema de el arte como terapia, como la creación y el arte salva el alma, te ayuda en tiempos difíciles.
So
Entonces,
there were two moments, but the first one was that the production was happening during COVID. And I don't know if you know this, but Dante, her son, is the voice of the kid in the film. So Dante and Rita both suffer from asthma, so they were being very careful during COVID. But it was also the twist of like, we're making a film about a concentration camp while in isolation, and treating art and this whole process as like therapy in a way, and as connecting with their soul and healing through it.
Right.
And then the second part.
El segundo fue, yo hacía las voces de los diálogos, pronunciaba los diálogos y Dante repetía la entonación, o sea, se me va la palabra, con emoción, él repetía la frase y llegó un punto cuando eran los diálogos mucho más tristes que él llegaba al llanto y no podía hacerlo. ¿Por qué no haces historias más felices, mamá? ¿Por qué tiene que ser esta tan triste? Y lloraba y le decía, bueno, es que tenemos que hacer esto porque no queremos que más niños vayan a la guerra.
Yeah, so the second part was that she used to sort of record the dialogue, and then Dante, her son, used to sort of repeat it, right? Read it back with that emotion that was needed. And at certain points he would just break down and start crying and start asking her why she couldn't tell happier stories, why she had to tell this really sad story. And she had to explain that it was important because she didn't want any other kids to go through war, to go through what these people in the story were going through.
Boy, yeah. But I think that's the thing about this kind of film, that I think it then generates some really important conversations afterwards, so, but you were having those during the production. I mean, did you see that change the way Dante narrated? Like, the more information that you and context that you gave him around, the story and the impact of the story?
¿Crees que Dante cambió como la manera en la que dijo las líneas cuando tenía más contexto y cuando tenía más explicación de la historia?
Él sí, creo que él es, bueno, es muy sensible y a la hora de hablarlo le dije, te prometo que la próxima historia que haga va a ser más feliz si me ayudas en esta. Y si ayudamos a contar esta historia, y él dijo, sí, está bien, lo voy a hacer. Y se enfocó porque me decía, no, no me quedó bien, voy a volverlo a hacer. Entonces,
So she thinks so. Dante's very sensitive, but the way Rita got him through it was, I promise if you do this and if you help me tell this story, I promise the next one is gonna be a happier one. So he agreed, and yeah, he kept on doing it, and did a great job.
Right. So basically, he played you to get a next credit. That's he's got good negotiation skills.
Yeah.
Oh man.
que haya impactado de buena manera y no de una mala manera este proyecto. Creo que él se siente muy, ¿cómo decirlo? Muy orgulloso al haber sido parte de este crew.
Yeah, she feels that Dante feels very proud to have been a part of sort of this crew and this whole story.
Oh, I can only imagine. Because it's a great story. It's extremely well done. It's so important, right? And he was able to be a part of that. So there's that. And then also going to the playground and telling all his friends that he's a movie star now. You know what I mean? It's just like
Que si ya le dice a sus amigos que es actor y todo.
Oh, no. De hecho, ayer tenía una cosa muy extraña. Mira, allá al fondo está el trofeo que me diste de Holy Shorts, y se agarró con un pañuelo y los empezó a pulir. Y se me hizo muy curioso. Dice, estos premios son de nuestra película. Y empezó a limpiar su premio.
So I don't know if you can see it all the way in the back, in the staircase. There's an award, and basically Humo won the Holy Shorts Film Festival. And yesterday Dante took out a little handkerchief and started polishing that award and asking if this was the award from their film.
Creo que sí.
Yeah.
oh, fantastic. Hey, congratulations on the award.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very warranted indeed. Yeah. Like, was there any moment during the 7 years where you felt like this might not happen, right? Or were you always confident and that it would get finished and put out into the world?
Sí, tenía que terminarlo.
She's
No
like,
dejo,
yes, I had to finish it.
nunca dejo un proyecto a la mitad, aunque me tarde lo que me tarde,
So she
nunca.
never leaves a project in the middle. Like no matter how long it takes, she always has to finish it.
Creo que es de animador, es un obsesivo compulsivo y creo que adolezco de ese síndrome.
Animators have OCD, so they have to follow through.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, we're very glad that you did, Rita. Very glad that you did. And so you played at Rain Dance, like, and you've been playing at other festivals. What has the reception been like?
Bueno, en las proyecciones se ha acercado, depende de donde hayan visto el corto.
It depends on where they've seen it.
Tuvimos una proyección en Los Ángeles
We just had a screening in LA.
y las personas estaban sumamente conmovidas, hasta la lágrima, y de hecho me abrazaban y
People were very moved at the LA screening. Some people came out, just fully sobbing from the screening room, and there was a reception afterwards where they got a chance to meet Rita, and people just wanted to hug her and thank her for telling the story.
y alguna otra me llegó a preguntar, como un poco sentí que decía: "Qué oportuno", y le digo: "Pues no es un tema oportuno", o sea, oportuno en el sentido de que sí, alto a la guerra, pero oportuno también sentí como un poco de que hubiera tratado de ser un poco oportunista, y le dije: "Mira, tengo 7 años en este proyecto y no fue meramente una coincidencia que se terminara en este momento".
So yeah, one specific sort of interaction that she had, because a lot of people sort of were thanking her and were saying how timely it is right now, to just show the short and the thematics of it. But she felt that one person in particular sort of hinted at the fact that she had sort of taken advantage of this moment to show the film in this particular time, and she had to explain that it's been a 7-year journey, and it's pure coincidence that it just aligned with the horrible things that are happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to produce this in the months
Yeah.
is kind of a crazy thought.
Yeah.
Boy.
But everything else apart from that has been amazing. The
Sí,
reception has been great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
sí.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Y
Like, oh, sorry, Rita. Go.
no, personas que no, o sea, aquí en México es digamos, podría pensarse que está más ajeno el tema. Al final quedan sumamente conmovidas y francamente, o sea, no era mi intención que la gente llegue a la lágrima, sino la historia por sí sola abre ciertas puertas del alma que no necesariamente tiene que ser en esta guerra, sino en cualquier otra cuestión de violencia, abre esas ventanas y la gente lo recibe con mucho sentimiento. Sí.
Yeah, so even in Mexico, where you might think that audiences are a bit disassociated with the thematics in the film, people have just received it in such an amazing way, and it wasn't her intention, but a lot of people are brought to tears, and it's just because the film itself sort of opens up doors in your soul that you didn't know were there, and just lets emotions flow no matter where you're from.
Yeah, no, for real. And I think the other thing is there's been so many different genocides around the world throughout history, that when you watch something like this, you understand the impact to, you know, the Jewish community and the other people that were taken to concentration camps. But then it's like you think about, oh, and you know, this happened here and this happened here and this happened here, and it's this thing that keeps on repeating itself, and you just be like, when are we ever gonna stop this cycle of violence and horrificness, you know? So yeah, I think stories, even though they don't necessarily represent you or your community, you can always empathize with them. You can always take something away from them and put yourselves in someone's shoes, you know? So it's always, you know, I think important to tell them and to have different people tell those stories, because I think, you know, Rita telling this story is going to be different from a Jewish person telling this story, but it doesn't diminish the story. It just gives you this unique new insight into it, you know. But Rita, like for you, you know, and you said you yourself and your son, you cry when you watch this again. So how has it been over these 7 years, like having this story with you, but then having to do other work on top of it, and then, like, you know, going forward, like how do you kind of I think these things always sit with you, but just go forward without the heaviness on your shoulders of this kind of experience?
¿Cómo cargo con esto?
Sí. O sea, ¿cómo te puedes concentrar en otros proyectos o todo después de vivir 7 años con esta historia?
Ya estoy pensando en otra, no, ya tengo, acabo de recibir un apoyo del Sistema Nacional de Creadores en México y trata de una, unos sobrevivientes en un mundo posapocalíptico, pero con un enfoque de que no importa cómo sea lo adverso del mundo, tú debes de encontrar la felicidad en donde sea, en cualquier espacio.
She just got a grant from sort of the Ministry of Culture in Mexico for her next project, and it's set in a post-apocalyptic world in which basically the message is against all odds and everything that's happening around you. How do you find that happiness and sort of your inner peace? So that's her next step.
Okay. And yeah, what's the process like on, you know, putting that story together?
¿Cuál es el proceso para esa historia? Para que cuando empiezas a pensar en una historia y en esta en particular.
En esta en particular, primeramente me involucro en el tema, o sea, en Humo, ¿verdad? Me involucro en el tema.
O en esta nueva que vas a...
Primero, tengo que empiezo por las imágenes y los diseños y luego continúo con el guión. Es una cosa, como mi formación es de artista plástico, mi formación es, empiezo visualmente y luego desarrollo el guión a partir de las imágenes.
So she always starts visually. She's a plastic artist, so everything is very visual for her. So she starts with the images, she starts with sort of like that sort of visual research. And once the tone is set, she moves on to the script. And I mean, that's how Humo was done, and this is the approach she's taking for this next project as well.
Okay. And is this going to be a short film or a feature length film? Like, do you know that yet?
¿Perdón?
¿Ya sabes si va a ser un corto, un largo?
Son dos etapas. La primera es hacer un cortometraje, la segunda es hacer el guión de largo y la tercera etapa es hacer la carpeta de arte para el largo.
So it's sort of 3 stages. Stage 1 is making a short, sort of like a proof of concept. Stage 2 is writing the script for the feature. Stage 3 is getting sort of the production binder ready to shoot or pitch the feature.
Okay. Well, that sounds like sorry. That sounds fascinating. It sounds like you'll be busy for a little while too.
Sí. Y creo que es lo más, la producción es maravillosa, pero creo que el hacer el proyecto es de las cosas más exquisitas que hay, la investigación y el diseño.
She loves production, but more than that is just actually doing the research and coming up with the visuals and sort of like creating this world before is very exciting for her.
Yeah. And do you know what part Dante will be performing?
Sí, lo será, sí.
Yeah. Pero ¿sabes ya qué parte va a tener?
Mira, la historia es, como te decía, es como la sobrevivencia y él es, estoy pensando que sea el personaje, es principal, es una historia donde ellos crean, es un mundo muy creativo donde ellos cultivan sus frutas, sus verduras, consiguen todo, o sea, es como empezar de cero después de la creación de la humanidad y cómo lo deterioras, pero vuelve la vida, es algo indetenible, o sea, la vida siempre retoña aún a partir de, es como el fénix, renacemos de las cenizas, pues es como...
So yes, he has a role, probably the main character. But again, just to give you more context, the story is about how sort of like a phoenix, humanity can rise from the ashes, and even if we destroy it, you can sort of start over, and you can't really stop it, and it flourishes. So, it's a world where they're gonna farm their own vegetables and do all of that, sort of start over as a society. So he will be playing the main character.
Oh, fantastic. Well, hopefully, Rita, when you're ready to talk about that one in more depth, you'll stop by and we can have another conversation.
Yeah, thank you, for sure.
Thank you very much. Yes.
No, this has been really, really interesting because I love the short. So I've really enjoyed being able to hear, more about how you were able to bring it to life and just put so much heart and magic into it. So thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Awesome. And before I let you go, can you let people know how they can follow you and keep track of all the wonderful things that you are doing?
Tu Instagram.
Ok, Instagram, es Rita Basulto, es así como se escucha.
So RITA BASULTO.
Dame un segundo.
Fantastic. Well,
Rita Basulto tal cual, creo.
She's very active on it, so follow her to get all the updates.
Sabi, es Rita.Basulto.
Oh, wait, never mind. So it's at RITA.BASULTO.
Sí.
Okay. People, all the links will be on the website. So make sure you go and follow Rita, because Humo was incredible. So you will want to watch that. And by the sounds of it, this new dystopian adventure is going to be something else. So, hey, follow Rita, watch the short. You will definitely enrich your life and educate yourself as well.
Thank you.
So, Rita, thank you so much for your time. And Marina, thank you for
Mariana,
helping bridge that language gap. I
Of
really
course.
appreciated this.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day. All right.
You too.
great day.
Bye.
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 Bye.